All right. Well, welcome to the Rest of the Owl podcast. I'm Hart, and I'm coming to you from Brooklyn with my friend Steve, or Stove.
Hi. Yeah, Steve is good for the purpose of me not being on Twitter, I guess.
A real human with a real human name.
Yep.
It's great.
Thanks for having me. This is my first time ever speaking on a podcast or any interview setting, so
Well,
it's cool to be here.
this is only like my fourth time interviewing anyone, but it's great to have you here.
Yeah, we're both fledglings just being pushed out of the nest
Yes.
in terms of doing a podcast.
I'm looking forward to seeing if we know how to fly.
Yeah. I'm plummeting right now. The wings are sort of slowly unfurling. You can place your bets on whether I'm going to hit the ground at speed. So
I feel like, not to celebrate your misfortune, but it does actually seem really appropriate that we're doing a podcast about like messiness, creativity, being in the unknown.
yeah.
And you arrived at my door today like, yeah, I got rough news. And I'm like, that sucks, but also like, couldn't be better timing.
No, this is good. Yeah, so the rough news is just stuff about my apartment hunt and the two places that I applied to seemingly both falling through. I'm moving to a new city and we might have to, I don't know. It's just life. It's hard stuff, but it's going to be okay. But yes, I do feel like a bit of a mess right now. And appropriately, I feel like a little bit of a mess in relation to my like music and art practice too.
Mm-hmm.
So we could, yeah.
I would love to get into that. Like, first, how do you describe yourself as an artist when people are like, what kind of art do you make?
Sure. These days, increasingly, I put emphasis on the visual art. I have been working a lot in ceramics the last year. That's sort of been my main thing. But the ceramics evolved from my more sprawling visual art practice that was more recently watercolor painting, before that linocut printing, drawing. I would say the ceramic sculpture kind of emerged out of those things, where the stuff that I was formerly drawing, I ended up realizing would work perfectly as sculpture. And then also the interest that I had in watercolor and how colors bleed and mix together and these sort of processes that create. Oh yeah, I do photography too. So this is a similar thing where film photography, it's a process where you kind of set something up and you're like, ooh, I hope this works. And then there's a sort of magical thing that happens and then you get it back later. And then you find out what happened. And so I like that about watercolors too. Like the getting wet on wet, sort of fluid mixing together, seeing what natural processes occur that make things look sort of unpredictable. So I realized I could apply that to ceramics too. And of course you get like this surface that you can do all sorts of unpredictable painting on. You send it away to the kiln, magic happens, you get this new thing. So that's sort of where I've been primarily focused lately, but I'm also a musician, and historically that's been my primary medium up until like the last... It's really hard to say exactly, because I've been, I was like drawing in high school even. It's a matter of how seriously you take it and how much at the forefront you put it. But as a musician, my primary instrument is the cello, but I create solo music and with collaborators that's sort of ambient, experimental, loop-based music, where I use not just the cello, but samples, found sounds, my own voice, bells. I like to sort of collect little instruments that make unique sounds, and then I like to process them live in such a way that you no longer can clearly identify what sound came from what. So I think, again, similar to that, what I like in the visual arts, where you kind of set up a complex system and then you give it a little push and then see what falls out of it. I really love processes like that.
That's really cool. I've seen this like since I started following you on Twitter, probably 3-4 years ago. And I remember you posting watercolors that were just like really cool, expansive little worlds. I could kind of like adopt them into my imagination and kind of exist inside them. It's like these little abstract or semi-abstract forms that like I could every now and then catch like a little character, or a little beast or something, and then most of it kind of felt like more the suggestions of like flora and fauna from some like dream world, almost Dr. Seussian. And I don't remember like finding out about your ceramics until they really had already like taken on their own life that seemed like massively advanced from your watercolors already. Like the way that I took notice of your ceramics was like, shit, this guy actually does ceramics. It didn't seem like you were a beginner at the time. But I have a feeling that it has to do with your ability to kind of like wind up the toy and let it go, or like set up this complex system and then just like see what happens. And that inspires me. Like I really like the ability to let go there. I'm learning a lot of that in my own work. And as a musician, I feel like I've always been a whole lot more controlling with my compositions, and I'm only recently like kind of getting an understanding for just how much more alive the whole experience is when I can like let go of most of it, or kind of, like you said, set up a complex system and then just see where it goes or what emerges from it when I've set it in motion. What was it like for you to kind of jump into ceramics, having only done like flat artwork or watercolors? Like what expanded when you did that?
Well, I think it in like there's this tension between control and I guess lack of control that you're talking about, where it's like I also have this, and this does super come out in my ceramics too, where everything I make, I do have this desire to have like an extreme, like meticulous level of control over what happens. And I'm also thrilled by pushing it right to the edge there and finding out the parts that I don't have control over. And it's frustrating and I hate it. And then I kind of love it also when the thing that I didn't have perfect control over comes out different than I thought, but then it surprises you also. And then you sort of learn to love it. And then you learn so much about the process. So I think the most interesting thing about transitioning to clay for me psychologically is the process itself and how much it requires you to engage with the material. With watercolor, I feel like I was a little bit more I guess in my head or something. Let me think of how to put this. Clay is really messy and you kind of lose control of it very quickly. It dries out on you as you go. And that alone is just so frustrating. And then there are all these just sort of physical material concerns. It's mostly related to how it dries out, but structural integrity, right? Like engineering. And for me, my imagination was always I really liked sort of whimsical shapes. I like things that open up into other things. I like things that sort of penetrate other things and have like little bells and dongles hanging off in all directions. Like, stupid geometric stuff. It gets me going. And I was very humbled by clay very quickly, realizing that like all of these things that I could picture so fully in my head, I would not be able to just make. And that's something that I'm still struggling with a lot, because as I've gotten better, I've had this desire to then work with increasing complexity. And then you're introducing yourself to more problems, more possibilities of things failing catastrophically, which did happen to me recently in a very, I don't even want to say it was upsetting, because I kind of saw it coming. There was a sculpture that I pulled like 2 straight all-nighters working on, and it was drying out on me, and it was like a little overly complex for what I was trying for what I was really capable of at the moment, with the clay body and just with the amount of planning that I had done. And then as I had finally finished it, and it was like, I don't even know how many hours of work. It's like almost impossible to quantify. Like I entered a kind of fugue state while working on it. All I know is there were 2 entirely sleepless nights. And then as I was loading it into the kiln, the whole thing just crumbled on me instantly. So the stakes with ceramics are insanely high. And like I'd never done anything before where you could put all this work into it and make the thing, and then it fails catastrophically, and then you just literally don't have the thing anymore.
Yeah.
Which I realize this isn't like a direct answer to your question, but I think transitioning into clay from painting kind of did have that like fledgling out of the nest feeling, where it's like there's nothing here to catch you anymore, and you just have to get in there and you have to mess around, and you have to accept failure very early on. You have to accept it like immediately. And I am someone who is not necessarily that good at accepting failure. Actually, I really care about outcome. The thing that motivates me to create stuff, at least in my own head, is often this desire to create something really beautiful. And I want the thing at the end to be beautiful. I want to have this beautiful object that I can love, or this beautiful painting. I want people to say, good job, Steve. I want this hanging in my house, or, you know, whatever. With music, I want to make music that I myself want to hear. I want to make music that I would like put on in headphones in the morning and like walk around and listen to. So it can be really crushing when the product itself is just gone. And I think that ceramics, in this really beautiful way, has forced me to appreciate process, because there was a really interesting emotional moment that happened when this sculpture that I'd worked on for so long collapsed in front of me. And I felt light. I felt this lightness inside of me. And I wouldn't say it was like an instantaneous realization, but it was more like, oh, right. I actually enjoyed making this. I enjoyed thinking about it. I don't feel like any less of an artist for this having failed. It's kind of like when the product falls away and you realize that there is something there, there's this really solid center that is process.
Yeah.
So I think ceramics has gotten me more in touch with the joy of process.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Like having it fall away, and there's like something still really significant in the fact you did that you went through it.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, we could say the trite things like you learned something valuable just from making it or whatever, but it's more than that. I feel like there's like a thing the thing about you as a person that changes when you participate in that. It's not just like, okay, I have new knowledge of how to sculpt that kind of form, or like now I know how long it takes for the thing to get crumbly. It's way more that like you were in this state of constant like enthusiasm and flow for like 2 full days, and that just like when that clear water is running through the inside of you, it leaves you changed.
Yeah, totally. And for the record, I do wish that it had not failed, and that was sad. And I'm gonna make it again, and I feel overwhelmed at that, because it's like, oh no, like what if I mess it up a second time? And that will be really upsetting. I do still care a lot about the outcome, and I'm not like enlightened. I don't know. I'm not like those Tibetan whatever, make it in sand and then blow it away. Like I still care so much about creating the beautiful thing.
Yeah. This is interesting. It came up on a conversation with somebody on Twitter recently where they were talking about having never mourned the creative projects that they failed at or stopped short on. And it sounds to me like when you're up close to the like signals on this stuff, like when it crumbles in your hands physically, there's no looking away from that. Like you're pretty much just going to grieve that whole loss right there in that moment, rather than like kind of looking away from it like I've done with like, I started writing a novel something like 7 years ago, and I picked it up and put it down, picked it up and put it down. And like most recently probably put it down like a year ago. And I have not once like thought about mourning that project until
Right.
you started talking about this thing crumbling in your hands. I was like, I have so many like unmourned corpses in my creative closet
Yeah.
that like probably I would grow a whole lot and find that lightness if I were to just like look at all that I've started and stopped and be like truly sad about it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, so sometimes this really hits me with music because I have been really not blocked up with creating music, but blocked up about releasing it
Mm-hmm.
for a very long time. And I
Mhm.
have this shame because I feel like for years now I've been telling people like my album is coming soon. And it is, by the way, the album's coming soon.
Yeah. What was
But,
the,
like,
did you share an EP with me recently? I feel like you had a release recently.
was it something that was like a private on SoundCloud, or was it a public?
It might have been a private on SoundCloud.
Okay.
I don't remember the context now, but I do remember getting tracks of yours and being like, damn, this is Steve. Like really like a clear sound of you.
Yeah, I haven't formally released any music in like almost a decade now. I've put some tracks on SoundCloud,
Mm-hmm.
but the tracks I've put on SoundCloud are the ones that I actually don't like as much. They're like the most incomplete ones where I was just like, yeah, whatever, I'm willing to call it. Like, I'll just put this up.
Yeah.
But there's this album that it's just a sort of Ship of Theseus album now where every time I go back into it, I add something new and then cut something else.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, when I look at my file system, it's all insanely disorganized. You know, it's got all these different folders within folders, ... final, real. And I keep discovering old tracks that I like forgot even existed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so many like loose threads, like half finished, whatever things.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. What if all of that just like burned? Sometimes I think about that. It's like, what if there just wasn't an album anymore and I was just free? I could make a new one and just be more intentional about it or something.
You get that kind of like manic liberation that's like, I don't know. It seems like somewhat tragic too.
It is tragic. No, and I really don't want that to happen. I'm like
Right.
very attached to this music and I can't wait for people to hear it.
Cool.
And I think that that's part of it, actually. It's like my attachment to it is high enough that I want it to be right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not willing to put it out in a half-finished state. I'm also not willing to just self-release it and have, like, 10 people listen to it. Like, I actually want to, like, put this out the right way.
Mm-hmm.
So that means emailing labels, and then once a label picks it up, that also means waiting a long time for them to put it out. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's a completely different set of problems than ceramics. So I guess I like that because with each medium that I do, I find a new creative way to get completely in my head about it. And then sometimes it feels like the other mediums that I'm working with rescue me from that.
Nice.
Yeah. And ceramics specifically, psychologically, for me, has been so helpful precisely because of this materiality thing.
Mm-hmm.
When I go into the studio and start working on something, the material demands further work of me.
Yeah.
And like a song, I can pick it up, I can put it down, I can go back, I can delete stuff. It's all digital.
Mm-hmm.
It's just completely psychologically different. So it's like, it's something you can sort of put off forever, and you can choose to only work when you're feeling the most inspired. There's also a lot of similarities because I like to, when I am in a flow state, I'm working in a somewhat similar way, which is just sort of getting my hands dirty, mucking around, getting really distracted by some like really small detail of the thing and spending like an hour perfecting it and then being like, oh, never mind, this is trash. And then in like 2 minutes making like the most beautiful thing I've ever done.
Can we dive in on that? Because that happens to me like all the time where
Yeah.
I'll obsess about a tiny detail to like the extremes of like hours of work, and then once I zoom out, I'm like, oh yeah, this was a total waste of time. I don't like this piece.
Yeah.
And then I'll have like I don't know, just like a little improv idea that turns out to be like my favorite thing I've done that week.
Yeah.
And it took something like 30 seconds to plunk out on the keyboard or something. Like,
it's so stupid, man. It's like, it's the most annoying thing about the creative process.
mm-hmm.
Like, you can spend a week like making something, and it's like, you're at the end of it, you're like, yeah, you know what, this is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, it's exactly that. Like, it's even worse when it's someone else. You go listen to some song that someone else made, and you're like, dude, this is a preset. Like, you did nothing.
Yeah.
And I love it. Like,
yeah.
It's insanely good.
You got like an arpeggiator and a drum sequence, and like,
yeah,
you made me bop. Like,
yeah.
I can't help it.
But the secret is you can do that too. Like,
yeah.
You can, if something sounds too good to be true and easy, you can just copy it. Like,
yeah.
Like, yeah, just be like, oh, what made this good? What made this work for me? And go and do that. And then inevitably you don't copy it correctly. That's what happens to me. I'll get inspired by something and I'll try to copy it, and then because I'm me, I copy it in my own stupid Steve way, and then it sounds nothing like the thing anyway, but at least there was like a seed that got you going in a direction.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have any formula for hitting that magic moment. It's
right.
just it's the eternal mystery of the universe, you know?
Yeah.
Right when you think you've uncovered it, it's like, no, it wasn't there. And it's sort of hiding behind the next door. But when you keep engaging with it, it does come. Mm-hmm. That's one thing I've found for me in whatever process I work in. No matter how uninspired I am from the outset or whatever, if I actually turn my attention toward the thing and keep working with it, sometimes I'll spend a whole day messing around with something that's useless. Mm-hmm. But now my head is in the space of creation of that thing, mm-hmm. and I'm sort of primed.
It's like you've masterclassed just like a particular method, and then like it took all of that tinkering just to get like familiar enough with that little implement to then like have a spontaneous moment with it.
Yeah. And it's even messier than that, I think, because sometimes, I don't know if this happens to you, but sometimes I actually am like really mad like the whole time that I'm making stuff. Like I feel like frustrated, and it's like, this is classic. Everything I make sounds the same. Uh-huh. It's like, it's here I go in the key of D again.
Yeah, you know?
Yeah. And then I go to bed angry and annoyed at myself, whatever. Next day I wake up and listen to what I recorded, and there's just like a true piece of gold in there.
Oh, nice.
So it's not, I think that those like happy accidents completely occur within the framework of me being distracted and annoyed and focusing on something I shouldn't. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of, it's as if, the power is inside me all along, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
The movie moral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn. I feel called out somehow. I have somewhat the opposite sequence where I'm like really loving the vibe that I'm in and like making something and feeling enthused about it. And then I hear it again the next day and I'm like, that's the same shit as always. Like, yeah, it doesn't really glisten with the same gold the next listen. And the frustration is like, am I going to like these 2 days in a row at some point?
Right. Right.
And I do, like, honestly, I think that something different happens when I set out to like write a song than when I'm just like, let's see what's in the keyboard today. And I just kind of sit down and noodle. The noodling is good for me. Like, it definitely gets me more clear about how to let something through, and it feels like good practice, but it doesn't feel so much like composition as it feels like practice.
Right. Yeah, and I think that that's a difference between our musical processes too, because I think my process these days I would describe as something like advanced noodling, or like systematic complex noodling, which isn't to say that the noodling itself is complex. It's extremely simple. Like I'll play a few notes, but then I will process those through the loopers and delays, pitch shifters, reverb, all this stuff. So it can feel like I'm doing the same thing, but then when I listen back, oftentimes there will be moments of really unique tone. Or it's like, oh, the attack of this note got cut off just as that one came in. And that will be the thing. It's like, ooh, there was a moment there. There was something really cool that happened right there. And I think that's the nature of sort of experimental improvisational music, that you're sort of searching for that. And this is why I really, really love performing live too, because I don't have to worry about this whole like editing whatever thing. Like the process by which I'm making music is sort of intentionally live. And when there are people in the room with me, they're experiencing the act of creation in real time with me.
Yeah.
And so all those little magical flips that happen that I sort of didn't see coming, everyone gets to experience that like with me. And also, of course, you know, if it sucks, everyone gets to sort of sit in the room and wish that they hadn't paid money to see whatever this is. But the fact is, it usually doesn't. I have a level of musical confidence that I know that it basically won't suck. Like at worst, it's just going to be mediocre for a little while. And then there's a fun real-time problem-solving thing where it's like, how do I get this from mediocrity to just over the line? Which is another sort of age-old mysterious question. Why is this thing mediocre and this thing is magical? And you break them down and the component parts are maybe the same. And you know, like I used to think that the more complex things were, the more magical they would be.
Right.
I think that's maybe a phase that a lot of people go through, where it's kind of like, oh, if I just layer more onto it, it'll have more depth. It'll be deeper. There's more to notice, so it'll be better. And then you sort of graduate from that to being like, wait a second, what if it was just 2 notes, but they were like the best notes you've ever heard? And now I sort of vacillate, you know, I'm somewhere in the middle there, but I'm trying to get at something like the depth that I was searching for with more complexity, but it's like the complexity is contained within the sound and it's gestural.
Yeah.
And to tie this back to visual art, totally the same thing. That like, and I will say that I'm worse at this with visual art, definitely.
Worse at like simplifying or finding the okay.
Yeah. In painting. So my girlfriend is a painter. Sure, she went to art school and I didn't. So I learned some things from her. She was also my ceramics teacher.
Oh, cool.
I learned ceramics 100% from her.
That's awesome.
Yeah. She introduced me to this term, I think it was called economy of mark, that they talked about in art school.
Cool.
Where a really good painter can do just one mark or very few marks, and somehow it feels full. And most of us, you know, if you take a paintbrush and make 3 marks, it's going to be like, well, this isn't anything, right? Or it's like, it's a sketch, it's something. Actually, I'm wearing my Helen Frankenthaler t-shirt today.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, she's an incredible artist. Very unlike my work, but also in some ways very inspiring to me. Because she doesn't everything seems like a mess. It's like the type of thing where people look at it and they're like, oh, my 5-year-old could do this. But then the more you look at it, you're like, oh, this is such a beautiful, weird mess. Like, how did she do this? Did she squeeze water onto a plate and then had it drip just so? And there's all this nuance, I guess, or subtlety that's contained within the marks. And yeah, the more you appreciate, the more you realize that so much thought and experience had to go into moving the brush or sponge or whatever she was using just so.
Yeah. I've been playing with this definition of art recently that I disagree with, but I think is like directionally right. Somebody famous said it, and I don't remember who, I won't guess, but they said that art is anything that has you making a lot of choices.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, well, okay, choice is definitely pivotal to making art. Like, if you're not making choices, you're probably not making art.
Right.
But I think it's more than that. But what you've just described with her, it sounds like there's just evidence of tons of, like, thoughtful choice making, where she's, like,
Right.
really discovered so many ins and outs of the media that she's working with, that, like, every little detail of it is, like, part of a participation for her and not just an accident. I mean, it is accidental in a lot of its contours, but she's also, like, fully involved in every one of those accidents.
Right. Yeah. So I think for me with visual art, I'm still scared of that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't trust myself to do one big mark and have it look good enough for me or anyone to care.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like I rely on intricacy.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something I've sort of debated with my girlfriend about to some extent too, because I think she tends to work bigger and be more gestural. And there's this, I don't know, I guess a narrative that maybe if I were more confident, I would move in that direction. And then I also have a lot of internal resistance to this. And I'm like, wait a second. No, I really love intricate work. I love having to plan things out. I love being really, really meticulous. And I love beauty coming out of meticulousness also.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also very inspired by people like Helen Frankenthaler. So I think where I've arrived at right now as a sort of overarching theory, especially for my ceramics, but I would say for art and music altogether, is that I really am trying to do both.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to be meticulous with structure and then have little islands and windows of chaos and sort of freedom of gesture and you have to find a way in. You have to find something that you're like, this works for me. This is a motif. This is a way of mixing colors. This is a certain color palette. I don't know. That there's something that you can kind of rely on and be like, oh, I can iterate on this. So yeah, I think
reminds me of jazz a bit. There's a structure of it where there is this, like, you know, complex composition that brings the whole band together and they all play a theme. And then each one of the members of the band will, like, take a solo and do variations on that theme. And there's, like, these little islands of that chaos. And then they restructure the whole thing and bring the theme back together. So, like, you get this continuity, you feel their vision, but you also get to go into the woods with each one of them.
Yeah. I tend to not really like jazz at all, but but like I totally vibe with, like, descriptions of it.
Yeah.
Or, like, when I listen to jazz, I'm like, oh yeah, process wise, I, like, really like this. I think that the specific vibe of jazz, I mean, this is, like, outing myself as, I don't know, bad taste or whatever, but
doubtful.
I genuinely struggle sometimes with just what it actually sounds like, but that's sort of besides the point. I totally agree with you though.
It's an interesting thing. I feel some tension with jazz as well. A lot of jazz sounds like it's really fun to make, but isn't fun to listen to. And I have a lot of that happen in my own music, in my practice, where I'm like, I recorded that whole thing only because, like, that's kind of journaling. But the practice was the practice. I don't need to release that thing because it's actually not nice on the ears. I'm just glad I had the experience because it, like, stretched something in my brain.
Yeah.
But then there's jazz where, like, I really lean into it. It's so wide of field that I couldn't tell you, like, I love jazz or I hate jazz. It's just, like, there are people who are able to accomplish, like, extremely listenable, like, deep, transcendent experiences through the implements of jazz. And then, like, they're also, I think, transcending jazz somewhat by doing, I don't know, I recently started listening to an artist, I can't remember his name right now, but he does, like, a blend of hip hop, jazz, funk, and pop.
Okay.
And classical. He'll bring in, like, Brahms and, like, jazzify it.
Whoa.
And it sounds gimmicky until you experience it directly, and it's like, that's passionately done. This person is, like, so alive in this very moment of that expression.
Yeah.
And the flow that he has from knowing Brahms or knowing Beethoven extremely well in his fingers, that he can give you a variation that sounds like a hip hop cover of it, is, like, that feels really like good to listen to, not just good to make.
Cool.
So I think like that's teaching me something by like liking the proposition of a whole genre, but not liking all of its outputs, and liking the proposition in my own practice, but not liking all of its outputs.
Right.
It's like there's something there about the process and the product that are somewhat distinguished from each other.
Yeah. Well, and I do have like a massive respect for jazz musicians for the reasons that you mentioned. Like, I think structurally there's a depth of actual talent and ability that they're drawing on. There's a sort of like inherent wisdom to it when done well. I think that the like aesthetic markers of it and stuff, it just doesn't tend to interest me as much in the same way.
Yeah.
But I admire it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I do want to do something. I guess what I admire is the depth, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do want to make things that have depth, and I want to make things that, to the point I was making before, have a sort of balance of order and chaos in a way that's sort of uniquely satisfying, where you can feel that there's a structure there, but you also get something out of the looseness, the rawness, the edginess. Like I don't like making things that are too clean.
Yeah.
In fact, I definitely don't like making things that are too clean. In watercolor, ceramics, and music, I think that there's a commonality in my work of there being, islands of mess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, and with glaze in particular, it's so cool what happens when you put things in the kiln, because it just looks nothing like that. And you're painting on these little powdered rocks, and you're like, is this even really going to do anything? And then they mix together in this, like, sometimes it looks like mud.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it looks like the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. And it's iridescent, and they're like, the color seems to contain many dimensions of color within itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just addicted to that. That's what I want to find, is like, how do you create a structure that makes things inherently satisfying, and then within that structure have there just be these like brilliant flashes of something that it's like water rolling down a hill. It's like a process that or I guess water wouldn't roll down a hill. Specifically, water wouldn't roll. It's like the one thing that
I think I've seen water roll. That sounds
flowing. Yeah.
It evoked an image in my mind that totally works for me. Very cartoonish, but works. Yeah.
Like, I love mess. I love the messiness of art. I don't want to make things that are too rigid. But I also don't like when you look at something and it's just like, this is just a huge mess, which is the critique of Helen Frankenthaler that one might have. And then that's why I stand up and I'm like, no, secretly this isn't a mess at all.
Well, the shirt you're wearing is the only encounter I've had with her work as far as I know, and I don't find it like egregiously messy. I find it pleasantly messy. There's like an amount of like kind of form to it that gives me like something to liken it to and something to appreciate about its contour, and it does look chosen and it feels like an intentional move.
Yeah.
There are like whole pieces of like art that don't really tell me that the artist had any care going into it. They seem to have just kind of slapped something on.
Right.
And it doesn't have that vibe at all.
Right.
There is hyper order and there is hyper chaos. I feel like the artist's job mostly is to like marry the two in a way that they like. Right.
And of course, like, every artist is like, oh, I'm straddling order and chaos and like electronic and organic, I mean, you see this a lot with music, right? It's like that. There are cliches involved here too that I want to avoid somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, of course, you're trying to find a balance. And I was just thinking as I said this, when I was like, I love mess, I was like, oh, I hope someone doesn't get the wrong idea, because for instance, when it comes to sculpting, I actually really don't like mess very much. Like, or I see a form of ceramics that's very common these days that is sort of like an intentionally messy look.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell that it was made kind of fast.
Mm-hmm.
And some people really love this look. It really it doesn't do it for me. For me personally, in my ceramic work, the interplay between mess and order comes about by me having sculptures that themselves contain a lot of order,
Mm-hmm.
smooth surfaces, paying a lot of attention to structure, everything sort of just so.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I bring the painting and the color in, that's when I have the opportunity to sort of create a little bit more surprises in there.
Yeah.
And for reasons maybe I can't fully articulate right now, that works for me. But to be messy in the sculpting part feels like phoning it into me a little bit.
I think, yeah, it can be. I've seen people accomplish the mess with a kind of they've seen their complexity phase already, and they came out of it, and this was the like clear decision they made,
right?
And that feels a whole lot more grounded, and
right,
like they've got an
right,
intention,
and that's economy of mark.
Yeah,
again. Yeah.
And then I've also seen plenty of this where it's like this person's just new with the materials, and this is what they slopped together. Keep going, guy. Like,
yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
But I like where you're at with like the clear forms that set like a boundary on a space, and I've noticed like the water sculptures you've made, or the like fountains that you've made.
Right. Yeah, that's my new thing. Is
so exciting.
Obsessed with how water flows over material. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, and it seems like you combine like art and design with that. You're like designing for a function and like just giving rise to a beautiful form.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's like layers of form and function, because you're giving rise to a beautiful form that's supposed to give rise to a useful function of creating a water form that's pleasing. So
right.
In plenty of like interactions, you're like form, function, what are the trade-offs? Where do I get the structure that's solid enough and the form that's flowing enough?
Yep. Yeah. No, this has been a fascinating aspect of venturing into making, yeah, exactly, like more functional pieces. But then, as you mentioned, it's like the way in which it's functional is actually just in service of aesthetics.
Yeah. Which is interesting. This is similar to like setting up your sort of complex array of like loop pedals and effects and everything. You're like, it seems like a design work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not quite the art yet, because you're just plugging cables, and it's like, here, we're getting ready to like fill this thing with art.
Right.
But that is a design process that like gives, it has like predictive power. You could be like, well, since I've got this plugged into that, here are the affordances, and then they produce this form.
Right.
Yeah, like when you experiment with music this way, do you find it like mirrors the like water sculptures you've done? Like how are they similar?
Well, I think that we're trying to make fountains specifically has brought in a level of thought and like engineering and planning that I've never had to utilize in anything ever before.
Cool.
And that has brought in a new set of questions also, which is sort of like, is this worth it, basically? Because to make a sculpture that looks a certain way already takes a lot of effort. Mm-hmm. And then if you're like, oh, and now this sculpture also needs to emit water, and it needs to flow down the surfaces in a way that makes sense. It needs to not leak. The pump needs to go somewhere. The water pressure, it all needs to add together in this like insane way that mm-hmm. you probably can't just totally nail the first time, because water is so unpredictable. And when I'm sort of knee deep in this, the intrusive thought starts hitting like, is this worth it? Like, am I putting all this effort into something that's actually a sideshow in some way, when I could be developing my forms? I could be developing my skills with glaze. Like, there's opportunity cost to everything. And now I'm putting all this energy into engineering. I've basically had to put those questions aside because I love it. I'm just doing something. I can't help it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, maybe it isn't worth it. I don't know. But I really love the feeling of making it. And, and, you know, this is like what I was saying before about how ceramics made me get more in touch with my love of process. It's like, oh, I really, really like feeling like I'm using my full brain when making art. And by that I mean utilizing the intellectual, like language, engineering, math, whatever part. And I think that is a really big part of me. And it's something that I haven't felt was reflected in my art and music as well. That the forms of creation that I was leaning on were primarily intuitive. And so I don't think that that was hobbling me. I really enjoy engaging intuitively, but it is weird to feel like there are entire parts of you that are really important to you that aren't engaged in your primary creation act.
Yeah.
So for me, I think this is something sort of uniquely satisfying where I was like, oh, I can bring in my like childhood obsession with like marble runs and like I like diagram. I don't know. When I was a kid, I really wanted to be an inventor.
Me too.
Yeah, right.
That's awesome.
Right. I was convinced that I was gonna like solve cars.
Cool.
Like I was gonna like design the first car that like runs on just water and emits air. And, like I didn't actually know how that would work, but I just was like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. And I you know, all these endless drawings of like trying to completely redesign everything. Like I wasn't interested in what existed in the world. I was interested in it being 100% different in every possible way. I was like, what would an alien car look like? If we discovered aliens, they wouldn't even have cars. Oh, like I was always frustrating myself with how tied to the human world I actually was. Anyway, this is sort of a digression, but I feel like I now am getting back in touch with that part of me that like really wanted to sort of re-engineer reality. And music, which had been my primary medium for so long, I think was more intuitive because I was engaging with it a little bit more as like raw emotional expression. And I think a lot of people can relate to this, that music is sort of more immediately emotional than visual art is. Like we use it to emotionally regulate ourselves like throughout the day. I certainly do. I listen to music all the time. And sharing my music, especially in a time when I felt like I was always such a goofy guy, like that I was kind of showing people half of myself in a way that like I was like, no, I have this whole complex emotional world, and through music I'm able to open that up to people in some way. That I have, I guess yearning is kind of like a big feeling that I was into conveying, but yearning, you know, combined with this sort of dreamlike eeriness or wistfulness, like sadness, but also happiness and frivolity and I don't know, all the nuance and subtlety of emotion that you can pack into one little thing.
Yeah.
So I think all of that like led me to be creating very intuitively, ultimately. And then visual art created a space where I felt like I could engage maybe a little bit more directly with something like whimsical forms. And then that led me back to this very early childhood part of me.
Yeah.
So in a sense, I've been thinking about this recently, actually, that when I'm making music, it's coming from an older part than when I'm sculpting. The sculptor part of me, I'm really, there's a direct line back to 6-year-old Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is so important to eventually find in your journey. Like for me, similar thing where like connecting with my musical side is an older part of me. And when I'm writing immersive theater, I feel like I'm 6 again.
Yeah.
And like my favorite pastime at that age, and probably from like 4 to 8 years old, all I did all the time was just like get together with a friend and tell stories using stuffed animals. We were just like authoring their entire like 4 hours of a day,
Right.
and like doing it in real time, improvising scenes and all this stuff. And it's like kid level storytelling, but we were just like so engrossed in it, we would like completely lose time. And now, like when I'm working on an immersive play, I feel like I'm exactly the same, but like including like grown-up themes and, you know, grown-up character, but it still feels essentially the same activity. I'm like, you know, miming the whole thing with stuffed animals, or I'm writing it into character sheets and devising it for friends to play out.
Yeah. And it's such an incredible feeling. You know, it's like you're like the avatar entering avatar state, and you see like all the past versions of yourself or whatever, and they're all like combining into one, and it's like, you are the artist, you are me but greater.
Yeah. There's parts all throughout The Artist's Way. Have you ever read The Artist's Way?
Oh, no. But I know of it. Yeah.
You're like, there is appropriate. It's groan worthy sometimes. Like, honestly, I've read it 3 times.
Oh, wow.
It like replaced the Bible for me when I like lost my religion. And not in a sense that like I took every word to be like the word of God, but it was just like, this is a really good guidepost for how do I find like a spiritual life that makes sense for me at this stage of life.
Yeah.
And so like first time I read through it, just like bam, it really like gave me permission to practice art at all. And then every time I've read it subsequently, it's just like helped me carve a deeper channel into like what is art wanting to express through me. And it's peppered with all of this advice to like contact the inner child. And when I first read that, it just gave me like ick. I was just like, that's so cringe, inner child, like psychobabble shit, you know?
Yeah.
And as I took it more seriously and just like, okay, cool, I don't like the language for it, but like there's a side of me that still feels like a 5-year-old, so maybe I can just be in touch with that side. And the more that I've indulged that, the better I've felt about what I'm making, and the more that it seems to resonate and connect with other people.
Yeah.
And that seems to just kind of report that like kids know what they're doing, and we get like, I don't know, pushed out of it by the systems we have to accommodate. Sure. But like, yeah, we have this innate sense of like what makes us feel alive and what connects to people through our particular lens.
Yeah.
And yeah, like when you're in touch with that like 6-year-old Steve making a sculpture, it makes sense to me that like your emotions are like kind of fiery, that you're like frustrated with this element, or you're like, you know, you're going through a whole emotional process the way that 6-year-olds have this unguarded emotionality to them.
Right. And like, because I'm not 6 anymore, I can actually get a lot farther than I could have back then. Like, I might have had similar ideas, but I would have just like not at all had the mental equipment to realize them. So they would have gotten stuck, you know, just like me trying to redesign cars.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I went and looked at those sketches now, it's like, that's completely ridiculous. I made them so that they all turned into ramps, like skateboard ramps, so that any car could drive over the top of any other car. If they were like going too slow, or if they double parked you or something. So it's all just in this realm of intuition, imagination, and you don't have to worry about dotting your I's and crossing your T's. And then when you take that hopeful child and then mix it with this adult that's like, no, we're like really gonna make this happen. Sometimes they're getting along really well, and sometimes they are at war with each other. Yeah. And the child is like, oh, I'm frustrated, I just want this to work. Like, this idea was so cool. And the adult knows how meticulous you have to be, and how maybe it doesn't make sense for a car to drive over the top of another car while they're both in motion.
I've kind of been toying with that, not to derail, but like as soon as you mentioned it, I had just a head full of like, wait, how can you make that work? That sounds really awesome. But yeah, there is something like an opponent process where like the imagination and reality have to like have tension between each other. You need something that's like just a little bit bigger than reality, so that you have some like wrestling to do to like make it real, or to like bring it down to earth.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's what, like, in our childhood, we're just like imagination to the exclusion of reality, or I was. And now it feels like in trying to reawaken that inner kid, I'm always having to like remind myself that more is possible than I imagine is possible.
Interesting.
Like I'll have the idea for a novel or an immersive play or something, and it's just a little bit too complex and has too many moving parts or too much fragility to actually like bring it into reality.
Right.
And often like the adult in me, rather than have the struggle, will just be like, what's the point, and put it away and not work on the thing. But if I get back in touch with like the childlike part of me, it's like, no, we really have to it's like tugging on my sleeve, like, please, can we make this real? Can we just get this, like, some part of it to like show up here?
Yeah.
And the more that I indulge that side, the better my art gets.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I that's why I feel especially interested and confident in the fountain thing that I'm working on, because exactly that. It's like I just feel so much enthusiasm around it, like that there is that inner child that's tugging on me, that's like, oh my god, wait, can we actually make this? Like, and then this adult part of me that's like, yes, we can.
Yeah.
Like I know how to picture a somewhat intricate 3D system in my head. I know how to sketch things out. I know, like I have all this knowledge that I can apply to the building of this now. And it's just really exciting. Yeah. And it is still a very, very messy, difficult process, and you don't always get what you want out of it. But like that, the urge within me to just push forward on it and be like, where's this going to take us, is just so clearly present that what else is there, it's like, why are we even doing any of this? Because we fucking want to.
There's something you said earlier that made me realize, like, that is such a really important stage to know about if you're not at it yet. You were like talking about the obsession that you had around some particular technique or process, and you said, I can't help it. Like, I would like to just move on and do something more productive, but I can't help it. I have to do this. And I gotta say, like, that didn't emerge in my system until like phase 2 or 3 of like unblocking my creativity and being like, okay, I'll own it. I'm not just a hobbyist. Like, I make art and it's like a practice. Before that time, it was kind of like, okay, I'll get to work on this, but I could help it, And when I got to the phase where I couldn't help it, that was like signs of life at a new level.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a phase where kind of you could avoid it or pretend like you weren't an artist?
Oh yeah, totally. I think that's it was a phase that I never left in some way. It's hard to know whether you ought to force it when it isn't coming naturally. But I've found that, I mean, this is also part of why I work in so many mediums, is because I get excited by new ideas. And then once you've been working with it for a while, it's not quite as new and shiny as it once was. And then it can start to feel like work a little bit. And so there has to be this sort of rediscovery of the energy of creation. I think for me, this has been really, really hard, actually. Like, I think so far in this conversation, I've been talking mostly positively about my creative process and my inspiration and what I like and what I get into. And that's easy to do. But there's so much negative space there. Like I mentioned, not releasing music for 10 years. That is because of a block of some kind. It's hard to articulate exactly what it is, because I don't feel like it's actually hard for me to sit down and make music, but I avoid it. I'll be like, oh, my gear's all unplugged and like I want to go outside, or like I just sit on my phone even, and like really stupid stuff. And it's like, clearly the energy that would sort of send me headlong into the creative act is just not present. I've considered myself primarily a musician artist ever since college. Like I really, I think that was when I started making music on my own more seriously. And I was like, whoa, I care about this way more than I care about school.
Wow.
Yeah.
What were you studying?
Philosophy and German. Yeah.
That's right. We talked about that a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
And to be clear, I also did care about that stuff.
Yeah.
And at the time I thought that I might go to grad school eventually.
Mm-hmm.
So this is another funny, messy thing in my life that I was, there's this sense of like, well, I'm doing this for now, but I'll do that later.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, obviously music matters way more to me right now than any of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I released an album together with my friend. It was just like us messing around with Ableton, like with samples mostly. Like I didn't really know what I was doing yet. I had classical training on the cello and I had a good ear. Like I have perfect pitch. I could like tell when a sample was going to be in the same key as another one. Back then I wasn't even pitch shifting anything yet.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I kind of got the bug and I networked in with some other musical friends, including my current roommate, Tristan, who has been like an immense force in my musical life. And I knew that was more important to me than anything else, but I also had this idea that I was going to get to the other thing really soon.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, I am going to go to grad school for philosophy. I'm going to get my PhD. I'm going to become a professor, just like my parents. But first, before I do any of that, I have some music to get out of my system. And then I like did get some music out of my system, but not in the sort of big way that I thought I was going to.
Yeah.
And I graduated college and I moved in with some musician friends and it was like, here we go. Like, this is all going to start happening for us now. And I actually floundered like really hard. And I kind of wasn't making very much music. I started falling out of love with the music I had made. I think in some sense there was a beautiful naivete to that first album that I made. It's called The Bus Ride, but our band was called Skeleton Zoo. You just look it up. I don't know. It has I still like listening to it because it has all this like, what's the word? Like vivaciousness to it. It's just, it's alive, you know? It's like the sound of two teenage boys just figuring it out and like actually surprisingly pulling it off.
Cool.
But I think then what caught up to me was my lack of actual knowledge and skill. And it was like, oh, now that I'm better at this, I can hear what this was all lacking. And I want my music to be so much better and so much more. I want it to contain all this emotion. I want it to be better for live performance. At the same time, my collaborator kind of disappeared. That project ended. I kept the name. I still perform under the name Skeleton Zoo. Cool. Which I also have so much weird consternation about. Like, it's like, it doesn't really feel like me anymore, but it never changed. And I never lost the thread. I never gave up, but I constantly felt like I wasn't doing enough and I wasn't doing what I had wanted to be doing. And I was playing shows, but it didn't feel like I was gaining traction and moving higher. And I'd had all these grand plans for myself with my musical career, and I felt like I really let myself down. So I don't know. There's a lot of reasons for that. I think it was sort of that skill gap thing that I was talking about. I think I put a lot of pressure on myself. I think I identified primarily as a musician, and whenever anyone asked what I was doing with my life, I would tell them about all the music I was making. And then music became this, oh no, I'd better make it. I better make something really, really good right now or else I suck, kind of. And then, yeah, you just avoid it because that's like, who wants to make art if like that's what it feels like?
Right.
And then periods of rediscovery because I never actually lost it and I never lost the skills and I did keep making things. It just was never as much as I wanted to be doing and it was never as complete as I wanted it to be. And now here I am all these years later, having slowly over the years built my musical setup into something that it is unrecognizable to what it was 10 years ago. And there's some loss there too, The stuff I was making back then had much more order to it. It was much more composed. It was a lot more sample heavy.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot more rhythm. It was kind of like groovy, like, oh, you can like bop to this sort of.
Mm-hmm.
And I miss that too. Like I don't really get that groovy with it these days. And I'm trying to find ways now to get in touch with that younger musical self again, actually, and be like, okay, how do I make this like more of a bop, or like how do I access more emotions beyond this sort of ethereal, dreamlike, yearning, noisy, whatever thing that I'm doing.
That might have something to do with like being as in touch with that part of your life as ceramics put you in touch with your 6-year-old, like in getting into your musical self. It might like open up kind of reservoirs of emotion that you really didn't feel were yours since like late teens or something. I had an experience like that kind of last year playing a character I didn't even plan to play. I had written this play where like a friend of mine, I had kind of pre-cast him in my head as like playing this lead character, and then asked him if he could do it, and he couldn't. And I was like, shit, he's not going to be in the play. Who's going to play this role? And I kept looking around all my friend circle and nobody was eligible to play the role. And I was like, fine, I'll do it. And so I like stepped into playing that character, and then I had to write a bunch of music for me to perform as that character.
Cool.
And the character was already written to be like angry, rebellious, like ambitious, like totally aggro. And I was like, man, this feels like really, really foreign to me. And then as I got into like writing the music in character, and I would like put on his costume to like write a song, and it like actually drew out something that I hadn't really contacted since I was like 16 years old. And I was like, oh, this is like my angry teen getting to like finally express himself.
Yeah.
And it was so liberating. It was like incredible just to like take the stage and be this like total aggro douchebag. And then like I felt like that kind of wove its way into like subsequent projects that I did, but not in that like top heavy, like this is only my 16-year-old level of maturity. It was like it kind of like folded into the processing of like more complex music that now had a bit of that edge to it.
Yeah. It's
yeah,
so
really
insane. It's occurring to me that kind of in order to make stuff in the way that I say I want to, I have to almost like trick myself.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you start telling yourself you have to do something, it can immediately suffocate this very young part of you that's creative and rebellious and wants to fuck around and doesn't want to be told what to do. And that same part of you is so full of like genuine artistic inspiration, and you have to get it involved. So it's like trying to get like a child to do something you wanted to do. And like my sisters are both parents. I see how they do this all the time, that they're like psychological tricks that they involve. It's like, well, you know, do you want to brush your teeth before or after you pee? And it's like, you just slid in there that she's going to brush her teeth no matter what.
But she also feels that freedom of choice.
She feels some freedom of choice. Yeah. So I don't know the exact analog here, because I haven't really found an answer to this actually. And it feels like inevitably I am a total mess when I'm creating stuff. And I will like sometimes feel really overwhelmed and like I don't even know what medium to choose. And then oftentimes I'll finally, I'll flip a coin, like whatever, I'll prioritize. And then as soon as I sit down to do the actual thing, the big serious work, I get distracted by some other thing, and then that's the thing I work on all day. And my, like I mentioned pulling those all-nighters while working on my sculpture. That wasn't what I planned to do.
Oh, really?
Oh, definitely not. Like, that's so like...
This was on your residency, right?
Yeah.
So what was the plan?
To work during the day and sleep at night. Like everyone else was doing.
Like a person?
Yeah. I thought, plenty of hours in the day. You can just work all day and then call it and then wake up the next morning and continue working. And it was like, I actually didn't even really get started until very late in the day. And then once I was engaging with the material, it was like, that's it. Like I'm in it. There's no stopping.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this like out of control feeling that
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes don't know how much I ought to lean into.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the residency, it was exhilarating. And I
Mm.
came back from it being like, yes, I completely lost control at this residency. And
Yeah.
I actually kind of stopped trying.
Wow.
And I was staying up. I was sleeping at the oddest hours. I also wasn't sleeping very much. And, and my girlfriend was like, "Oh, so you were manic?" I was like, "Well, I don't know. I think I was really loving the complete absence of any urgent need to do anything other than what I wanted to do at that moment."
Yeah.
And that freedom, once I realized that I could just lean into it and be like, it's 5 a.m. I've been up all night. I'm going to go like drive to a mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I was in Vermont and you could just do that.
Mm-hmm. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah. I was like making kind of like all the wrong choices, like on purpose almost.
Mm-hmm.
And that led me, I think, again, maybe I just was letting the rebellious inner child have what it wants.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, so you don't want to do this? Okay, what do you want? And it's like, as long as it's not just sitting and staring at my phone all day, you can kind of follow that and see where it leads.
Yeah.
But in life, you can't just do that. Like that, you can't just rebel. You can't just do the wrong thing all the time. Especially if you have projects that you really care about and you want to finish, you have to find some way of directing your attention back to the thing and being like, all right, let's get serious. Like, what would it look like if this gets finished?
Mm-hmm.
And getting the inner child, whatever free spirit on board with that. Sometimes it's really easy. Sometimes it's the hardest thing in the world. And I have found that I have very little control, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of just do what inspires me and I follow that inspiration. And when I'm not inspired, I don't do it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And like my roommate, for instance, Tristan, I don't totally know what to make of this. They're a very, very interesting person and I love them dearly. They are like the master of forcing it.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. They're
That's
like,
intimidating.
they're like, sometimes I just hate making art and I feel like I can't do it. And I go in the studio and I set a timer and I do it.
Wow.
Yeah. Like they've got timers, they've got system. And like, I watched how we went from being kind of in the same place back in college to them really, really honing in on their art and their practice and seeing serious success.
Wow.
Doing it.
Wow.
Yeah.
What does that look like to you, the like serious success you're talking about?
That they set deliberate goals for themselves and then reached those goals.
Awesome.
That I don't know, they systematized everything. They had like little notch that they would write in a piece of wood for like every day, I guess, that they worked in the studio of like a full day. And then they showed me their piece of wood that's just like completely covered in notches.
Cool.
And it's like, yeah, I never did anything like that. I still, not even at all. And when I will not work at all for a really long time. And then when I do, it'll just be insane. And I'll pull all-nighters and I'll stop responding to people on my phone. And like, you know, the studio's a mess. Like there's like 6 things going on at once. And that can be exhilarating, but I also kind of hate it. Yeah.
Well, I think that like both kinds of artists exist for a reason. Like,
yeah.
There's a process you can accomplish through your like highs and lows that Tristan probably can't access through this methodical like work every day kind of approach. And the need I have like apparently is some amount of that like daddy parenting of like I just have to get myself in a commitment where there's a deadline, there's a process, there's like a routine. And if I feel too confined in that routine, the rebellious side wins. It will just overtake and like destroy the system. Yeah. So it's like kind of a balancing act for me. But I also have, you know, a couple of friends who write every day and that's just their thing.
Dude, writers, I think there's something about writers also where they're like, because at the residency too, all the writers were like, they would just get up and write in the morning, and you'd see them at lunch and they would be like, oh, I was writing all morning, about to go back at. I was like, oh, you guys all just do this. Like,
that's awesome.
I don't know.
I love that for them. I don't really have that anymore. There was a time where I was writing every day, and I had a lot of like abortions, a lot of like creative U-turns where I would work for like over 100,000 words on a novel idea that I had, and then it would just completely go leggy and have like no continuity and no grounding or structure, and I'd be like, fuck this thing, and I just put it away and start a new one. And then like another 60,000 words would come out, and then I'd be like, and fuck this thing. And so I have, quite a lot of those like half-finished projects. And I was just looking through my hard drive yesterday, and a bunch of old like archives of just like projects I started and stopped. And I don't think I grew all that much from doing those.
Interesting.
There is some growth in just like putting the reps in, staying in contact with the muse or whatever. And I think there's something a whole lot more meaningful in like finishing a whole art object and like taking it through revisions and taking it through release and taking it into like the community. Because once it reaches that full like cycle of like entering the world and kind of bouncing back with like feedback, then you know something about it. You know what worked and what didn't. And I have no idea what was working and what wasn't from those novels that I half finished.
Right.
But the discipline was an experiment. I guess in a way it worked. I've had other disciplines that... Okay, well, there's a really big contrast between two disciplines that I did. One was a friend of mine started this project called The Daily 2, where he was like, let's make a pact. We're going to make 2 minutes of music every day for a month and post it online as soon as it's done.
Classic.
Of course, to make 2 minutes of music, if you're like the kind of perfectionist I was, takes you 8 hours that day.
Right.
And so I had a full-time job for a month of just making music. Right. And I was obsessed with every detail of it, to the exclusion of all my basic human needs. I was barely eating. I was barely sleeping. I was like up till 4 a.m, sometimes putting the last finishing touches on the edit, and then up the next morning to write the next one. Yeah. And at the end of that month, I felt spiritually like drained and like flat. And I was just like, I don't have any blood left in my body. Like I just have to like recover. I couldn't listen to any music, my own or anyone else's, for like a month. And I was like, that made me actually deeply miserable to do it that way. And then a year later, I like looked back at that and I was like, but I had all of this growth. I grew so much from making like 30 different songs and 30 different flavors all back to back. And I can look at that evidence now and see how big the transition was from the first song to the last one. Yeah. And so I was like, I want to do something, but not to my own detriment. So I tried a different experiment where instead of like making an output pact of like 2 minutes of published music a day, it was an input pact. Like, I'm gonna spend an hour a day making music. It's always gonna be like a song that I'm writing, and whenever that song is done, I will publish it and move to the next one. Yeah. And so I did that. It was just like serial obsession with a song, and it would take me like maybe a week to craft a song instead of a day. Right. But that week of like sleeping on it, having balance in my life, showing up every day, it still made a huge impact, and I made changes. So I'm like, I wonder, for me, it seems like the pattern is if I guarantee an output, I will make myself miserable trying to reach that. And I can reach it, but it like comes at too great a cost. Right. If I guarantee an input, I'll show up to it, and I can't tell you what it will produce, but I know I will grow. Yeah. That's really interesting. It brings up a lot of thoughts for me. First of all, I think I'm really bad at even doing that. Like that, whatever. I'm sure my therapist could have a field day with this. For some reason, my inner resistance to self-imposed rules is extremely, extremely strong. Mm-hmm. So if I say, I'm just going to put in an hour every day, there will be this inner child that's like kicking and screaming to like not do it. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that type of thing is obviously really, really helpful. I think that the one rule that has worked for me at all recently, and I think that this is in concert with how Clay
once I get started with it, just actually sucks me in,
Mm-hmm.
was that I made a pact to go to the studio first thing in the morning every day. And that was I've tried to do so many rule things like this. I'm going to work on every day. I think the simplicity of it just being like, that is literally the first thing. This is the first time anything like this ever worked for me.
Wow.
Because inevitably I wouldn't get to it right away too. Like it was in my mind and then I'd be procrastinating, but like you can only procrastinate something so much if it's the first thing you're doing that day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you just go do something else, then you're actively breaking the rule that was ultimately a very, very simple rule. So it didn't give me a lot of like room to struggle out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then inevitably, once I'm at the studio, you unpack the clay, you start messing around with something, and then it's like, now you're off to the races.
It's like the clay's only going to be wet for so long, so you're engaged.
Yeah. With music, I never quite figured that out. I think I was working from my home studio also, and then you're working, like, the laptop is open, and I don't know, that there's all this other stuff that gets in the way. But having a deadline, obviously, like when I play shows, then I end up being really productive around that. Mm-hmm. But wait, there was something else I was gonna say. I had like a whole thought. Mm-hmm. It's gone.
Okay. The deadline thing you just mentioned is huge for me, and I find that like I won't believe a deadline unless other people are holding me to it. And it's not just like, hey, be mean to me if I don't make this deadline. It's like, I've promised that I'm going to deliver something to them for them. Mm-hmm. That's when it feels real. So it's like, I've got a show plan, or I've got like a jam session or whatever. And that means like, those people know I'm going to show up that day.
Right.
And it just feels magnetic. After that, I'm like, I have to do this. And it doesn't feel like the chore, have to do this thing. It's more like, I can't help it. I'm doing this.
Right.
But I've tried the thing before where I make like a pact with people and we're like, they're going to do this thing. And I don't even follow through on those as much. Right. Like, it did help when I was doing the like hour a day of like just writing. It was in the midst of like a group stand-up thing. This is like dorky as shit. It was during COVID lockdown. A bunch of us were like, I'm flagging on my like productivity goals. Do you guys want to have a group stand-up where we just like, go around in a circle, talk about the thing we're going to work on for the next hour, and then just like mute our microphones and go work, and then come back and brag about it when we're done? Yeah. And so everybody showed up, and everybody was kind of in that sheepish like, all right, well, here's the thing I'm going to try not to procrastinate on for the next hour. And that really worked a lot, because I felt like, in a way, I was doing my part to support other people doing their part. Like, if I show up, they'll show up, and I want them to show up because they'll feel good. So like, yeah, it was like a synergy thing. Right.
This reminds me of sort of the other major thing that's been so helpful about the clay practice, which is that there are other people in the studio.
Yeah.
And like, it's absurd to show up at the clay studio where other people are also sculpting things and not work. Yeah. It's like, well, what? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, it's funny to be I feel like I'm allergic to like productivity hacks or whatever. But because it's like, I'm not trying to hack something. Like what I want is to create I want to get in touch with the part of me that wants to create.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have to hack it. I don't want to have to force it. It's like, I'm interested in what types of settings and like environments and forms of working like lead me to feeling that creative fulfillment more. Because like you said, it's like you can do something where you work every day and ultimately feel like you wasted that time because you weren't actually aligned in some way with like the genuine creative spirit and desire.
Yeah.
And like, again, one of the great mysteries of the universe, like how do you really get in there? But certainly just there being a dedicated space where it doesn't make sense to do anything other than the work there, and then you show up at that space, it's just like a flow chart. It's like, well, I'm gonna do the work then. And the music for me has been always much more alone, which I don't actually love. Like, I really like making music collaboratively. I also have a vision. I
Mm-hmm.
have things that I'm trying to say, things I'm trying to convey. It's not easy to come across collaborators who share your vision.
Yeah.
And I've had many, and the collaborations have always been really fruitful and awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not, you know, I'm not going to a music studio where I'm sitting around with other people that are also all making music. That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, it would be like just logistically hard to hear your own sound when somebody else is like guitar centering 5 feet away.
Yeah. And then writing music with someone else can feel like pulling teeth sometimes. I don't know if you've had this experience, but especially when it's like me and my friend and we've got Ableton open, and like jamming is one thing. That's a problem in a completely opposite direction, because you can jam forever and then you're like, great, what do we do with this? Is this a song? Is it not?
Right.
You have to find some way of getting in there and tinkering with the bits. And as soon as you're doing that, you're doing something that kind of one person at a time can really do.
Right.
So at its best, you're both listening, you're both involved, you're kind of switching off who's got the computer or whatever. And you're like, oh, I've got an idea, I'll like lay this down, and then he builds off of that.
Cool.
But at its worst, it's kind of like you're both sitting there in front of the computer and you're both kind of like feeling wary of maybe what does the other guy want here? Like, I don't know where this is going to go. Like, do you know? I don't know. Kind of self-consciousness.
Yeah.
Like it's related to performance anxiety, actually. Like, oh, what am I going to do in front of this person that's suddenly going to make everything more magical? And you don't enter the flow state in the same way because you aren't messing around, because you feel watched or something. Like you need to be more decisive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, partly I think this is a compatibility thing. You find people that kind of like flip that switch in you where you get less self-conscious because with them messing around feels instantly rewarding.
Right.
Like it's kind of like having a banter buddy. Like you might have a friend you can just get along with and you have a nice walk to the coffee shop, and another friend who makes you feel like you're both stand-up comedians. And like the chemistry between you and the stand-up comedian friend is probably just like some amount of like feeling permission to fail.
Right.
That leads to way more successes.
Yeah.
Then I think there's also a component of it that's like kind of collectively setting the stakes or setting the expectations. Like I did this experimentally where I hosted a big meetup for like songwriter collaborators. And I was just like, if it's your first time or your 100th time, let's get together and write songs together. You got 3 hours. Let's just turn off perfectionism and go. And it worked so well because everybody was just like, we got 3 hours. Let's do it. And so they paired off really quickly without overthinking it. And then I gave them a little songwriting game to get them started to like figure out a hook or something.
Oh, cool.
And then 2 hours later, everybody came back with a finished song.
Yeah.
And all of them were like fair to middling songs. They weren't bad. Like there wasn't a single like new radio hit in the whole set, but everybody was just like, that was faster and better than I've written a song in a long ass time.
Yeah.
One thing that I don't know if it's a hack or just like keeps working. I got together with Lysander for like writing one of the songs for the Halloween play last year.
Okay.
And we wrote the whole thing in 2 hours. And I think one of the things that helped was we were writing the song to perform a particular function in the show and to like express a particular character's personality. And so it was like we had kind of goal directives that were logistical and just had these needs. And so we couldn't get precious with any of the little details. It was just like, well, this might work. Let's try that. Okay, well, that kind of does this. Let's see what happens if we try that. And so like,
yeah,
I think that maybe the hack is it's for a character or it's in character. And so we were both kind of like, who is this guy? What is he saying? And every time that I've written a song for or in character, it's just like grease the slide for me. It's just like the whole thing goes a whole lot smoother.
Yeah. This is related, but not really. Or no, it's totally related, but you're reminding me of a really fun night that I had at my friend's family's house in the woods like last winter, where a bunch of us went there. There was like a group of 5 of us, and we brought all this music gear and stuff, and we'd been noodling around and jamming, and it was pretty fun, but like I felt like we didn't totally find our groove jamming together. Like everyone, yeah, you know how it is. It's like 5 instruments at once, and people are kind of pulling it in different directions, and you don't really lock in.
Yeah.
But then later that night, after we'd all been drinking a little bit, my friend was like, "Oh, I have an idea," and it was like a musical D&D game where he was the DM. And basically, like, I mean, it was completely ridiculous. Obviously, there was no, like, dice rolling or anything like that. But he would just sort of, we were, like, adventurers or something, and he would set the stage or, like, tell a little bit of a story. And then the story would lead us to, like, have to sing a song in order to get to the next part. And it was completely ridiculous. And, like, you know, everyone had different turns on the mic, making shit up. And I ended up secretly recording the whole thing, which is, you know, is very sacrilegious. You know, these things are supposed to be ephemeral.
Brilliant move, though.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad, because the very last song that we did, oh God, I wish I could just like play it. I don't know. I kind of like want to release it somehow, because it like brings me so much joy to listen to this. My girlfriend Margaret was singing, and the setting was vampires. I don't totally remember everything, but like we had just emerged victorious. I think the song before that was some kind of like, we were vampires. I think like the protagonists were vampires. And we'd had to fight something else. So there was some, you know, like ridiculous fight song that was just before this. But then this was the glorious ending song. The Transylvania National Anthem is what we called it. And Margaret, that's my girlfriend, to her credit, she's just like really, really good at coming up with lyrics and melodies on the fly.
Nice.
Like I am much more blocked up about, especially lyrics. And she just sang a full national anthem for Transylvania. And it started off, I was just playing 2 notes on the synth. It was like very simple, lots of reverb on the vocals, and you're like, oh, here we go. And then my friend Dan came in on the guitar in like just the right moment, and it like brings me to tears, and then it like slowly grows. Like, oh, what was it? The best line in it was from the blood-soaked hills to the dark caves, bless this land, but in a satanic way. I was like, how did you just come up with that? And like, I don't know, lyrically and melodically, it all just fit together. And
it's hysterical.
Yeah, it was so funny, but I don't know. I guess making space to just create in a really like whimsical, silly way can lead to genuine emotion. Like, yeah. I like teared up listening to it again. And it's like, yeah, wow, this song about the Transylvania National Anthem of like celebrating our vampire bloodline, is bringing me to tears right now, because I know these people who were making it. I felt this sort of freedom and openness in the moment of creation that really comes from play, right? Like, and I guess this is like the inner child stuff, everything like that. Like, art is play to me. And I am playing with toys. Yeah. And I feel good when I'm playing, and then it brings really surprising it's like, imagine if you're a little kid like playing with Legos, and then you build something and it makes you cry. Yeah. Yeah. Like, that's what it's like. It's like, whoa, I wasn't even really I wasn't crying when I made this. I was messing around. Yeah. But like it's more than the sum of its parts.
It brought you to the brink of yourself. Like, there's something new that comes out when you don't expect anything of yourself and you're just at play.
Yeah. Now, of course, I could show you this song and you'd be like, this is ridiculous.
I want to hear it. It sounds awesome.
I'll send it to you.
If you decide to release it, let's put it in the show notes for this episode.
Okay, yeah, sure. No, I could just put it on SoundCloud. I mean, it's not going to go anywhere else.
Okay. Well, that's wonderful. I want to hear it. And I also really want to play musical D&D. That sounds so cool.
It was a really good idea. This was my friend Tom Carney. It was his idea. He releases music under the name Broken Every Angle.
Okay.
And his last album was incredible. I really recommend it. And I designed the album art for his upcoming album.
Oh, cool.
And that was also really fun.
Love that.
I don't know when it's going to get released, but it's, again, just a really, really incredible piece of music. And also, while I'm here, I mentioned my roommate, Tristan Allen. Really just, I don't know. I cannot endorse the creative practice potential output of this person enough. Like, they're a massive, massive inspiration to me and a huge collaborator. And they make really brilliant music, but they also are a puppeteer, and they sort of make and design their own puppet shows that go along with the music.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
I have to say, like, I think this deserves way more conversation. I'm also just checking how long we've been going on here. A wonderful amount. I'm loving this, but I have just one more topic that I have in mind for, like...
we can bring... I know we're getting, like, off the rails in some ways.
No, we're on the rails. This is totally my favorite stuff to talk about. An area that's come up a lot where I realized, like, I used to avoid collaboration. I knew that it was important and probably would help me, but I also, like, felt very precious about my own work and didn't want to let anybody see it until it was done. And I also felt, like, very insecure about, like, forming new ideas in connection with people. And so I just wouldn't collaborate. I wouldn't invite it. I wouldn't really show up if people asked me to collaborate. I'd be like, yeah, let's do that sometime, and then just never call.
Sure.
And something changed. I don't remember what, but it really did end up being, like, super important and impactful for my artistic growth to, like, begin collaborating with people. But I remember it going really badly the first time. It was like, I had a bandmate and we, like, got together to write music together, and I always felt overridden and unheard by him. And it just felt like continually painful to be in, like, a collaboration practice where I was basically invisible.
Yeah.
But, you know, eventually I found relationships where it really was even, and we were, like, in a give and take and stuff like that, and it started really showing me, like, what I was missing. But I guess my question is, like, at what age did you learn to do artistic collaboration, and how did it go?
Oh, I think that it began with collaboration for me.
Cool.
Yeah. Or yes. I mean, it depends what you count as the beginning, of course.
Yeah.
So I played cello since age 5.
Oh, wow.
So I took, you know, my sisters before me, one played the piano, one played the violin.
Mm-hmm.
We, you know, we're like a classical music family.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very familiar with that form of music making.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I had a desire to create my own music.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really want to be a classical cellist. I wanted to make Steve music.
Yeah.
I would improvise on the cello because I had to practice an hour a day. And so one hack is that I would just improvise for like an hour straight.
Yeah.
And it would count because I played cello.
That's awesome. And that's really good practice.
Yes.
Honestly.
But I never really liked what I did. I always felt dissatisfied by the way that the cello sounded. I felt like I was sort of repeating motifs, but I didn't feel really emotionally in touch with what I was doing. It actually was like overly emotional, which you can really imagine with the cello. It's really easy to do. It's a very dramatic instrument. And when you start playing it, it's like, oh, here comes the drama. Here come the tears. Like in a movie, the strings come in and it's like, now it's big drama, cinema, tears time. And I always kind of hated that. But I would, you know, my close friend was also a cellist, and we would like make music together, and we were kind of shredding on cello together, and it always left me feeling kind of unsatisfied. Then I met my friend Zeke senior year of high school, and he introduced me to GarageBand. And he was like, look, and he knew a lot of random old music, like old soul music. I don't know where he got this stuff from, but it was very new to me. He had a completely different skill set from me.
Cool.
And he showed me how he would flip a sample and add a beat to it. And immediately I was like, yes, this is like the complete opposite of my dramatic cello bullshit. Like, let's go. And I got really, really into sampling.
Cool.
And then we would just like, with our 2 laptops, we like developed this thing where we would like hang out and we would both have GarageBand open. And then we would swap laptops.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we would like work on 2 tracks at the same time. And that was like the first time that I really felt like I was making music that I liked to listen to. Cool. And I think it was, this friend with a really different skill set. He was good at percussion. He was good at sampling. I was better at, I had a better like ear training. I think I was like, better at coming up with melodies and like the sort of more compositional. I ended up doing all of the arranging for our album in the end. But it was amazing because then we eventually graduated to Ableton and we had a Dropbox collaboration.
Nice.
And every time that I put something in the Dropbox, I'd come back to it and it was new. And like, there's nothing more inspiring than that. I really miss it.
Yeah.
But this was the beginning of my musical trajectory. Like, that's what made me start to really like what I was doing. And this goes back to something I was thinking about earlier that I didn't say, or I guess I did. With creation of music and art, I find that I need a way in, and it's not obvious. Yeah. And you can actually spend years making stuff without really finding the way in that you're like secretly looking for. So I think for much of my childhood, I actually was creating music, but I hadn't found a way in. And I even like wrote music sometimes. I would like annotate it on the staff and everything. But I knew there was something kind of wrong. I was going through the motions. I was repeating musical motifs I'd heard. I was combining things and recombining them. But I hadn't found my voice. Yeah. And I noticed this with visual art too, that you repeat the things that work. You're kind of messing around. You don't really like what you're doing. I think at the beginning, you also sort of have to fool yourself into thinking it's better than it is, or else you'll just give up. Yeah. But my visual art started with doodling. And, for the most part, when you're doodling, you aren't like, this is amazing. Right. But I think I got kind of into doodling these like 3D objects that would like intersect with each other. And then that was my way in. And then I would say with watercolors, they're like that thing I was talking about, like controlled bleeding of colors, but also landscapes. Like you mentioned, seeing how so much of what I was doing was like these little worlds. Creating something that felt like a portal into an actual world that ultimately was that there's some sort of border around what you're doing. It gave me a way in. And in many ways, I feel like the evolution of my art practice over time is just me finding more and more ways in to what can at times feel like an impenetrable surface of like, I'm here on the outside. I'm in the land of mediocrity. I can make stuff. I can make shit all day. I don't love it. Right. And what is it that I really love? And it can be surprising and a little bit weird. So I don't know. This is just a thought that I often keep returning to because it's sort of, in some ways, it feels like creation is like reaching into your bag of tricks. But also keeping yourself open to research and development and stuff so that you're always adding new tricks to the bag. And then like really good art, I think, comes from people who have a deep, deep bag of tricks. Yeah. Yeah, I think they have to have like really like disclosed themselves to themselves enough to have that bag of tricks. It's like you said, finding your voice. You have like a lot of things you can do, but you don't know what your sound is yet until you've like kind of marinated in it or something. And then you can also find a trick by accident, and that it's just like the greatest thing ever, and it's immediately good. Yeah. So I actually want to edit what I just said about great art comes from people with a deep bag. Great art can come from someone of any size of bag. Yeah. But the more ways in that you find, like the more depth your art is going to have, and the more satisfying it will be to engage and create with it.
Yeah. And I think there's something really, really necessary about boredom, I think.
Yeah.
Like that hour a day of improv that you would do, I bet it was like fundamentally like necessary to get bored in order to like go past it. Because if you're not bored, you'll do the same thing 100 times. But the moment you reach boredom, you're like satiated with whatever that particular flow was made of. And that has you branch out and explore new stuff. Like I had to do probably about an hour of improv a day when I was on the cruise ships doing like entertainment.
Oh, yeah, right.
Because there would be like an hour instrumental set, and then there'd be like 3 hours ish of like singing, and the singing was all like rehearsed songs, but the instrumental set I would always just do some improv. And because it was like an hour a day, I would definitely run out of like used ideas or stuff I already knew, and I would just have to flow into like making it up.
Right.
It would get messier, it would sometimes get uglier. Usually it would reveal something a lot more interesting and exciting. And I built my bag of tricks a whole lot deeper from having to do that every day.
Right.
That's now something that I like assign to like students and clients, is like, if they're extra interested in learning to improv, then I just tell them like set a timer and improv every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, and during that timer, there are no mistakes. You're not allowed to call anything a mistake. It's all good ideas from the unconscious. Everything that comes out of you, no matter how planned it was, is your next good idea. Roll with it. And yeah, that is like such a liberating experience to like find something interesting, because you can get bored so fast that way. You really have to just like keep throwing yourself curveballs.
And I personally, again, like I think this speaks to sort of the immaturity around creation that I've been referencing in this conversation. I have a really, really hard time with mediocrity, or with feeling mediocre and feeling bored.
Yeah.
It just drives me away from it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, I want to get somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to me that for so many years of my life, I knew I wanted to be creating something different than what I was doing, but I just didn't know how. And then it took this kind of random chance of like someone showing me like flipping a sample in GarageBand, you know, not that complex, just something really, really different that finally unseated me from whatever rut I was stuck in.
Well, yeah. And that's not just one move. That's also like an impressionistic painting of a whole bunch of moves you can make. You know, it's like with that one gesture, he just unlocks a whole world of opportunities that you've never tried before.
And I'm certain that that's possible for me in so many different ways and directions.
Yeah.
Like the fact that I got into ceramics, it was not inevitable at all.
Right.
It happened because of a series of accidents. It's literally because my girlfriend works for a ceramicist, and the ceramicist went on vacation and said, do you guys want to dog sit for me? And she was away for a week, which was just enough time to run 2 kilns so we could do a bisque fire and a glaze fire.
Cool.
And I'd never done ceramics before, and I was like, sweet, this is a really cool opportunity to fire a bunch of work for free.
Cool.
Let's go. And then it turned out, I was like, oh my God, like those 3D things that I've been drawing ever since high school, those were sculptures. This whole time I was drawing sculptures. And it was like in retrospect, is the most obvious thing, but I wasn't gonna chance upon that myself.
Yeah, I remember you posting one of those drawings like earlier this year or something, and saying like, holy shit, I've been sculpting since then.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're right. I remember this drawing and seeing that little figure, but you're right. It's like a whole world of sculpture was inside you.
Right.
It's so cool.
And there are other worlds. It's so frustrating, actually, because I think this is the messiness of it too. Ties into this like failure to release music and stuff like that. Cause it's like, I have known that I have so much potential. And I think when I was really little, I believed in this potential, and I was like, I'm going to write great music. And then for like 14 years, I didn't, or whatever, I guess not that little, but for like 10 years, I didn't make any music that I liked. And then it took this like weird happy accident to show me a way into making music that I actually liked. And the way that I make music right now, I think, is also a result of years of happy accidents, but it's not even remotely the only type of music that I could make.
Yeah.
I feel full of many half-formed or even like 2% formed ideas that if the right inspiration or right set of circumstances were to come my way, it would unearth something new in me.
Yeah.
Both new and old, right? That I would then be seeing all these connections and be like, oh wait, I've been doing this the whole time, blah blah blah. But there is this sense in which I feel like everything I do in every medium is kind of circling around this like massive, super massive object that is like my creative potential or my yeah, it's not like I could do literally anything, because then when I look at it, there are threads that connect it all together and it all seems very me. And that's also very gratifying. But the shape and size of what is me and what is my creative world is actually completely, it's like covered in fog of war. Like I don't know.
Yeah. What's funny is like same here. And there was a time in my life I had no idea that was out there. Like,
yeah.
I knew I wanted to make music, but I did not know that this whole realm inside me needed that music to be made. I just kind of thought like, this is the activity I want to be involved in. But it feels the more and more that I explore into that fog, the more I find like there are pre-existing forms in here. You know, there are things that my soul needs to get out somehow.
Right.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
And some of them don't take the form of music, and it's like, shit, I gotta like learn to write better. I gotta learn the rudiments of immersive theater or whatever.
Yep. Yeah, sometimes I'm like, wait, what if I wrote poetry, you know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Or like when you were talking about being inventor, I was like, ooh, I bet you would write some like bomb ass sci-fi. Like I would love to read that.
Yeah, I tried to write sci-fi in 4th grade, but I wasn't good enough. It's the same thing. It's like maybe when I'm 40 or something that'll come back around. Yeah.
Oh, and that's a thing too. Like, not to like superstition it, but there are like kind of trends for different art forms and where people are like emerging at different ages in their lives. And like a lot of new music is made by people in their 20s. Almost no new novels are written by people in their 20s.
Yeah.
Novels are like people in their 40s and 50s somehow. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it just takes a certain amount of time to gestate to a like proficient level to be able to birth a novel.
Music culture is very youth obsessed for sure. I was talking about this with Margaret recently, actually, because we were both like, her ex-boyfriend, who was a friend of mine, was a musician and took it very seriously. And I knew him through music and through, you know, Tristan, all these other people who took music very seriously from a very young age. And like directly out of college, there's all this pressure to be like, my musical career needs to be popping like right now.
Yeah.
And we were like, why is that? Like, why was everyone so like, of course you have to let things marinate. You have to let them evolve. Like, you're still so young, but it's because like you're seeing other people your age reach immense success. And there are all these cultural reasons for it, right? I think it has to do actually with what I was saying before about how we use music as emotional processing, and young people are very emotional. Yeah. So young people are very music obsessed. Yeah. And then they end up making it for each other, and that they are kind of like drivers of the culture. But I am very interested in engaging with music in a way that is not tied to age at all. Like, I would love to be performing in a similar way to how I do now when I'm old, you know? And I don't feel like I'm making music that's like for young or old or anything. It's just like, it's emotion. It welcomes you in. I want to make things that provide a little space for your mind to go and inhabit and feel whatever nuanced things exist in that space. And that is the same with visual art, I would say. It's like little worlds. Like, here's a mini world for you to sort of dive into and exist in for a moment.
Cool. I like this thing that you mentioned before, like worlds and like portals, like the access points into those worlds. Like that was the thing that went from like doodling to like really making your art, was like you discovered a portal.
Mm-hmm.
I've had the same feeling around going from like telling little jokes to like seeing the potential for a whole play or a whole story, or like going from kind of noodling around on the keys to hearing something that makes me go, oh, that was a transformation, like could I do that again? And then
Right.
I feel that out, and it's like that really sends me into a new world. And so now like this is crystallizing for me, a thing that I hadn't seen as a pattern. Like the kickoff moment of any new piece of art seems to be like when I find myself in a new world about it.
Right.
Now I have stuff to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and it will surprise you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. This is not directly related again, but you were asking before about collaboration, and I wanted to mention also that I collaborate with Margaret on music now, which
Cool.
I guess I have said elsewhere in this conversation, but that particular collaboration has also been very freeing for me.
Mm-hmm.
That to have someone's voice, to have this I mean, not just someone, it's her voice. She has an incredible voice. And like I've said, she has this inherent knack for melody and lyricism that kind of like provides another way in. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, it's that collaborative spirit where I feel like I can set the stage and she can inhabit it, and then we can play off of what the other person is doing.
Yeah.
Um,
It's really cool too to create with your romantic partner. Like there's something in that. You guys are romantic partners, right?
yes. Yeah.
And there's like I'm fresh at this too. I have not collaborated with a romantic partner in like a deep, like long form art piece before Bridget. And we started working on our Halloween play like a year ago. And it took us like 3 months. It was the very start of our relationship. For the first 3 months of our relationship, then we were collaborators. And it was like a totally new level of like surrender and commitment to a thing, because I was committed to the art and to our like relationship, like carrying it. And I was also like having to surrender a lot of like control, in the sense that like we were passing this ball back and forth, and so we had to like really like both feel the ownership of it. And it was crazy. Like I've now told people who are artists, like this is so much better than like shit testing. If you want to know how much your relationship can hold, make art together. Like
Yeah.
you will have deep commitment, you'll have like shared risk, you'll have emotional upheaval, and you won't even have to make each other crazy. You're just experiencing and expressing yourselves really fully with someone.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my two most successful relationships began with artistic collaboration.
Oh, that's
Margaret
cool.
and I actually made music together before we started dating.
Oh, cool.
And I think I sort of fell in love with her while that was happening, you know?
Yeah.
Like I already had all this attraction to her, and you know, we were actually roommates at the time.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it was a really funny, intense summer, because
Mhm.
there was like all this plausible deniability. We're like watching movies together, you know,
Mhm.
whatever. But then we were like, oh, let's make music together. And I didn't really expect much to come of it.
Right.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
And then like the next day I laid down some loops just casually, and she started singing over it, and immediately I was like, oh shit. Like this is this combination of my romantic attraction to you and the like sublime music that's coming out of this, and the complete like goofiness, like ridiculousness, playfulness of it all.
Mhm.
I think the first song that we made, we called it Stupid Dog. I mean, it was just improv,
Yeah.
but she was singing "Go on home, you stupid dog," whatever. It
Yeah.
like it doesn't. The lyrics made no sense.
That's how improv sometimes needs to be.
Yeah. And then again, I was like, it's like with the Transylvania national anthem. It's like I was almost brought to tears by it, because there's something that I felt self-limited by in my music making, where it's like I I'm always gesturing around something, but there's never a central voice that just says something. And then this beautiful woman that I'm in love with just like steps into the stage that I'm like crafting, and then is the centerpiece of the music in this way that perfectly interplays with what I'm doing.
Oh my god. It's like you're the bower bird and you built her this little bower and she came in and like added the feathers and she's like, complete.
And I was like, oh wait, you have like zero musical training. Like, why are you this good?
That's
like,
so cool.
I don't know.
Oh, I love that.
It's just pure intuition.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Oh.
So and that's shown up in our collaboration in different ways. Like, I think that because of the difference in musical training, like she doesn't know, like the other day she was like, what's a key? Like, what does it mean for a song to be in a certain key?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like at that level. So I am in some ways like pulling strings to make it all happen.
Mm-hmm.
But she just has this like raw energy that reminds me of why I started making music in the first place. You know,
awesome.
Like that raw energy of me and Zeke in high school, just like messing around in GarageBand, not knowing what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Play. Like, how do you get back to that feeling of play?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like for her, she doesn't have all the baggage that I had.
Right. She
like,
didn't like
there
put
was
a bunch of expectations on herself about a career and
absolutely zero.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, I guess I'm good at singing because I sing in the shower. And I was like, yes, you definitely do sing in the shower. So
that's cool.
Yeah. And I knew that she had a good voice from that, but I didn't know that she would be like perfectly on pitch, and that like what specifically surprised me so much was her ear for melodic phrasing. Mm-hmm. Again, with no particular training, she would make a song that has verse, chorus. There's even like a bridge. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, how did you know to do that? And it's this like inherent musicality. It's like, well, that's what I wanted it to sound like, so I did it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
That also just like that like confirms a piece of advice that I give to like new music students all the time, which is like, don't be troubled that you don't know music theory. Music theory is like a cargo cult, or it's kind of like people trying to figure out what worked already.
Right.
But the music came from people desiring to hear that thing. They made it because they wanted to. So make what you want to hear. That'll be music.
And so much of the music that you and I and like popular music, whatever, is made by people who didn't know music theory at all.
Yeah.
Even like pop producers right now, like it that isn't necessarily the skill set that takes you. It's so much about it. Just can you find the vibe? Can you find the way in?
Yeah.
And sometimes it drives me nuts.
It can be an obstacle if they know too much theory and they try to lean on that theory to like produce the answers. They're not listening as much to their desire, and they miss the actual art.
Yeah.
I don't think that's always the rule. You can probably like have a whole bag of theory tricks that help you, but the mindset still needs to be this like playful, like kid in the sandbox, like just toys.
Yeah. Well, and this is where jazz, to bring it back to that, I think this is exactly how jazz fails for me also, because it's like, oh, you're actually like too good. You know, like you know too much about how to modulate keys, and you know too much about ninth chords and whatever. Mm-hmm. And so you have all these skills, but it's not in the service of like, or supposedly it is, but to me, it's not in the service of hitting that deep note in my gut.
Yeah. Well, this is the journey that Coltrane and Miles Davis both took, where they reached a precipice where they were just like, there's nothing. I mean, there's always more to learn about music, but it's like they couldn't fill their head with any more knowledge. There was no extra thing that would like, you know, be a breakthrough for them. And I think they both reached that precipice and like finished their sort of like complexity phase, where they were like, it's just got to be more complicated. I need to add more notes per second, or I need to like change into more modes per solo or something. And instead they just started listening to like, what is the raw emotional experience of sound, and how do I make it more raw and more direct? And like the latter half of both of their careers is just like the most exciting stuff, where they like threw all the rule books out, and it didn't sound like jazz anymore. It kind of sounded like, you know, some sort of suffering creature, or, you know, it's like just really visceral.
I'm a huge fan of throwing the rule books away and maybe not even reading it in the first place. Because I mean, for me, like, I grew up classical cello, whole bunch of rules, all this stuff, and I felt oh my god, I can only think of the German word begrenzt. I felt contained. Oh my god, what's the word? Whatever. Imprisoned by it, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And it was only through throwing all that away and saying, I'm going to play the cello wrong. I don't tend to bow notes in a melody. I just don't do that. I play harmonics. I pluck strings. I'll like slap the cello. And then I feed those sounds into my pedals, and I loop them, and then I let them layer, and then you get these sort of interesting spontaneous things. Pitch shift it, you can no longer tell it was even really a cello.
Cool.
And like that was sort of my way back in with cello making, or with music making with the cello.
Yeah.
And then it's funny because then when I play live, a lot of the time people are like, oh, I really liked that part where you actually started playing the cello. Like, you should do that more. And it's like, okay, yeah, you're right. I could maybe like let a little, like, it's beautiful to have that, and then also know when to bring the dramatic strings in, actually, and like let the instrument shine in the way that it was designed to do.
Yeah.
But I think so much of the music that I've been inspired by and drawn to is stuff that throws away the rule book in some important way. And I mentioned Tristan earlier, who is just like, it's impossible to overstate how important they were to my musical development. We met in high school, and they couldn't read music at the time that we met, but they were a prodigy pianist.
Cool.
And we were in music theory class together, actually, and it was really funny because I learned at the same time just how incredible a musician they were, and what the gaps were relative to my, you know, very like, classical upbringing. Yeah. But they would just shred on the piano in a way that I'd never, you know, the fingers are moving all over the keys. And it was sort of like Philip Glass inspired type of stuff. And then we sort of got into Ableton production around the same time. Cool. And again, I feel like the music that they make, similarly to me, though the vibe is very different, you're taking instruments and sounds and layering them, processing them, working with them until they're abstracted, and it's not quite clear what created what sound, right? But that there's a sort of hidden order to it that then, like, it sounds almost like a mess, but then you hear the order, and then you're kind of in that euphoric state of being like, oh my god, it's everything at once. Cool. And that's the type of music and art that has always drawn me in.
I love it. So where can my listeners find more of your artwork and posts and such?
Well, I'm a little bit disorganized about how I share things. On Twitter, actually, I tend to post the most freely about my ceramics process.
And on Twitter, it's no lemon, no melon?
No lemon, no melon. But if you are interested in just checking out my work, my website has images of work that I have made going back in time. Okay. That's StephenGoodwin.com. So Stephen, Stephan Goodwin. Thanks, Dad, for spelling my name that way. And then for music, that one's a little trickier because of what I said about not formally releasing music in a long time.
Right. You're on SoundCloud.
I am on SoundCloud, Skeleton Zoo. Okay. Yeah. And there are bits and pieces from over the years there. Also Skeleton Zoo on Bandcamp. That's where you can hear that original album that I made freshman year of college with my friend Zeke. Cool. that it holds a place in my heart. And then I have another collaboration with a friend, Callie Lampel. That was, I guess, maybe 5 or 6 years ago now. I struggle to remember exactly, but that was called Hilsa. I'm not sure exactly.
How do you spell that?
Hilsa.
Okay.
Yeah. And we released an album, and that was the first music that I had released centering on the cello. So it was like a collaboration of me doing cello harmonics looping stuff and then him doing guitar and synth. And it's very much sort of odd, eerie ambient music.
Okay.
But it was released on a label called Youngbloods. So definitely if you were to search Hilsa and Youngbloods, that would be the thing.
Okay. So no lemon, no melon on Twitter. Stephen Goodwin with an A in Stephen, STEPHAN.com for your art.
Yeah.
Hilsa, Youngbloods, and Skeleton Zoo on Bandcamp?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
But I think if you want to hear the most recent music from me, even though it's not that recent, Skeleton Zoo on SoundCloud is the place. And then finally, wait, what was I going to say? Oh my God, I lost it. Wait, there's one more thing that Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously.
Okay.
Yeah. Because on my Instagram, it's basically just my art.
Cool. What's your handle?
Parashorts. Para shorts.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love that.
So that's like if you want to follow along with my art practice. I treat that a little bit more seriously than I do Twitter. So I don't tend to post as much process stuff. Mm-hmm. But once I've finished and photographed a work, which God knows how long that will take me to do. So there's an extreme lag to me sharing things. Mm-hmm. But if you follow me on Instagram, you will eventually see my art posted.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here today. I'm really glad we had this conversation. I learned a lot.
Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, it's really fun.
Awesome. Yeah. And thanks to the listeners. Y'all be well.